Order online at picassospizza.net.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to this Trainwreck Sports Podcast, where we are not here, or we are here to pay the bills. We are here to pay the bills. It's later than usual. I've paid my bills, so I guess I've paid rent today, Mike. That's always a good feeling. So I'm not thinking about paying bills, but we're here to pay a lot of bills actually. So Mike Bundt, Jake Majka, here. The first day of OTAs, Mike. It snuck up on me, honestly, right out of the holiday weekend. And then I'm seeing the post when I first woke up this morning, and I got a little excited, man. I can't lie. It was nice seeing guys with helmets and shorts running around today, and some fervor from One Bills Drive. How about you? How are you doing on this fine May 27th Tuesday evening here?
I'm doing good. I wish the weather was a little bit better in Buffalo. We've been in this mid 50s funk for a while, but we had a couple days that were a little bit warmer. We got up to the 70s today and went to the pool for the first time of the summer yesterday in the low 60s. So froze my butt off, but excited to talk some Bills football, especially the big topic of the day regarding Joey Bosa and his calf strain. So that's going to be a fun one to get the show started off with tonight.
And let's get right into it, because Sean McDermott obviously met with media this morning before the first OTA practice. The biggest updates of the day are what we're going to touch on today, and the biggest argument, I guess, the latest point of tension in the Bills Mafia today has to do with Joey Bosa, who is not going to practice likely at all during OTAs with a calf strain. Sean McDermott used the word concerning, which is not a word you like to hear from Sean McDermott in the spring or summer, but he should be back fully healthy for training camp from the Buffalo Bills. Now, this sent everybody in a tizzy, and Mike Bundt and I, we basically said the same thing like 10 minutes apart without realizing it. And then I checked and saw that you had posted, and then I was like, okay, well, we're in line here. So I think we're on the same page. But Bundt, when you heard that news today about Joey Bosa, obviously high-priced guy, I think he's making about $12 million this year. He's supposed to factor in big for the Bills, but we know the injury history has been a concern, is obviously the biggest red flag. So with these storylines, is it something or is it nothing, Mike? What do you think?
I mean, it's not nothing, but I don't think it's something either. This is a tough thing. Anytime something like this happens, you're going to have extreme reactions now on social media. And even if you have a leveled center approach, people on the one side are going to think you're crazy, and people on the other side are going to think you're crazy. Today didn't change anything for me, really. We all know that Joey Bosa has durability concerns. He hasn't played a full season in forever. He's missed several games over the last 3 years. Last year, actually playing more games than he has the 2 seasons before that. So we know about his durability concerns. We know about his injury history. But the thing about that is, I'm worried about, is he going to be missing games in the regular season? Is he going to be missing games in the postseason? This calf strain, he's going to be back for training camp, most likely. And there's 3 different levels of calf strains. There's a level 1, which is very minor and not really much time missed. There's a level 2, which is 6 weeks to a couple months. And then there's a level 3 where you could be missing 3 to 4 months. This sounds like it's probably the level 2. And if he's back for training camp, I don't know why this is such a big deal to Bills fans. If this happened in training camp, that's a concern, because you could be missing the start of the regular season. You might be trying to rush to get back quicker, and then maybe you have an injury that lingers, that carries into the season, and other things can pop up. We're 103 days from the start of the regular season. He has over 3 months. He has about 3.5 months to rest, take it easy. And when he's ready to come back, the doctors will clear him and he'll come back. Now, does that mean he can't get hurt or have other setbacks or other injuries along the way? Absolutely, he can have other things pop up to him. And yeah, this could all come back to bite the Bills in the ass. But this specific injury is not something to be overly concerned about. It's the whole story that I would be more concerned about.
Hello, Elliot from London. Go Bills. Wanted to get that in there quick. So I am pretty much in line with you, Mike. I think that the thing with this injury, I understand the context of Joey Bosa, which was kindly pointed out to me in a couple of replies of the injury history. That was the whole point of why he was available. That was the whole point why they were able to get him at listen. The talent level of Joey Bosa is not $12 million. It's if Joey Bosa is playing to his potential, he's one of the best defensive linemen in football. So we know that context is within there. But for me, it's more, I think for me, it's more of the site. For me, Mike, honestly, selfishly, it's more like, is this really what we're going to be doing? Like, it's May, guys. Like, we do this podcast every week. We know as much as anybody the ups and downs of this fan base. We try to read it, and that's how we base a lot of our conversation, right? Like, that's what we're touching on. We're trying to get the read of the fans and get it from that perspective, and then bring some knowledge into there. We can't be doing this in May. It's a long year. We have 6 months until playoff football even starts. So let's relax. That's all I'm saying. For your mental health, for your sanity, for anything. Like, the dude, here's the thing. I said this in one response. If Joey Bosa stubbed his toe, if he had a hangnail on his left pinky, I would sit him for OTAs. So this calf strain, yeah, I agree. If it's grade 2, definitely is something worrisome you want to take seriously. But I think the whole point of this thing is that if he was hurt at all, I don't think he should have been. I don't even care if he showed up to OTAs. He's not a guy. He needs to be at OTAs to learn responsibilities, to build camaraderie. Like, that's basically it. He's not a guy that needs to be on the practice field for me, especially in shorts. It's not like linemen are like it's not like they're getting really quality reps in the OTAs without any pads on, without doing these things. Like, it's a lot of foundation setting where he can probably get, Mike, I feel like he can get just as much being here and watching and observing as he would be going through the motions on the field in this setup. Now, maybe there'd be a marginal more benefit if he was practicing and doing stuff, sure. And maybe it's obviously something we should be concerned about to see an injury pop up earlier, sure. But like, I just think I would prefer my team to be cautious in this scenario. And so let's just assume that they're being cautious and go with that. That's the smart thing. Would you want it? Like, I'd be way more mad if tomorrow we found out Joey Bosa re-aggravated a calf injury that he sustained training in the offseason and will have to be reevaluated and will miss the rest of OTAs. Imagine if that was the storyline coming out of it. Like, so let's I get the fervor. I understand that we want to just jump on Brandon Beane and say, oh, Beane blew it again. Another high-priced defensive lineman that's going to blow it. They're not going to get to patch him up. Okay, great. Relax.
And it's like, what was the alternative to? Like, see, like, this is the thing that I get upset when it comes to all this freaking out. People will be like, oh, they blew it. They spent all this money on Joey Bosa. First of all, this is like a low-risk signing. You signed into a one-year deal. That's why you were able to – that's why the Bills did it. They're only committed to him for 1 year. If it doesn't work out, they move on and they're done with him. So if Bosa didn't have the injury history, he would have gotten a multi-year contract. He would have gotten a lot more money. He got a one-year deal specifically because teams had issues with his injury past, and they didn't want to bear the weight of that. So it's a calculated risk, and the Bills are signing him, hoping that he can contribute when it really matters. And for the Bills right now, the only thing that really matters is January. I find like there's a lot of hypocrisy from Bills Mafia recently, where we say stuff like all that matters is January and February, but then when somebody gets injured in May, we're worried about the start of the regular season and missing games. Or the Bills sign Ojanobi and Michael Hoyt, and they get suspended 6 games. And we're like, oh, this is so atrocious. We signed these guys, and they're going to miss 6 games. Well, they're going to play in 11 games. And if the whole point is winning in January and February, why are we worried about what's happening in September and early October? It's one or the other. This team is good enough to win a Super Bowl. If they don't make the playoffs, it's not going to be because Joey Bosa missed part of training camp or that Ojanobi and Michael Hoyt missed the first 6 games of the year. It's going to be because things just fell apart and crazy shit happened, like Josh Allen missing a season or coaching malpractice or massive injuries or massive strategic failures across the board. So if we're all aligned that it's about getting to a Super Bowl and winning a Super Bowl, we shouldn't be worried about a May injury. And I saw some people bring up the Curtis Samuel injury from last year. Number one, that happened in training camp. An injury that happens in training camp is much different than an injury that's sustained in OTAs. He got turf toe in training camp, then tries to come back quicker than probably what he should have, plays through it, it lingers, he doesn't perform to his level. What the Bills are talking about with this calf strain, he could potentially be fully recovered before he ever even sees a football field again. Doesn't mean that he will be fully recovered. It depends on the degree. We don't know that, so there is some speculation on this. But people are comparing injuries that aren't even like comparable. We don't know the situation of the injury. And basically what I would say and what you're saying is it's not that you shouldn't be concerned about his injury past overall. That's perfectly okay. It's okay to be worried about his injury concern. The Bills, I bet you are, is a little bit as well. But this
Sean McDermott used the word concerning.
This specific injury is not going to be what determines if the Joey Bosa signing ends up working out or not for the Bills. And that's what I'm kind of tired of, because there's a thin line between passionate and being toxic. And I do think the Bills fan base is starting to trend more into that toxic territory than they are passionate. Passionate, yeah, everyone's passionate. But when you're too passionate and that lets you distort your brain and your thoughts and the way you react to things, you start to go a little bit too far. And I think sometimes we freak out too much about things that happen in OTAs. And this has happened before. We've had injuries where we freak out and we think it's the end of the world, only to then be September, October, and players are fully healthy and they're productive. And yet we have it on the opposite side where guys like Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard are durability concerns as well. They're constantly hurt. They're constantly missing time. But yet Bills fans never talk about that at all. Yet they expect them to be fully healthy and playing at Pro Bowl levels when they come back. So I do think there's a little bit of hypocrisy and a double standard here.
I completely agree, and I think the timing of that, especially, completely key. And I understand, like you said, to wrap this up, we understand the nervousness, especially when it comes to this specific player. But we can acknowledge that and also say let's just take it easy in May, and let's just see how it all plays out with this D line and who has these roles and how much this actually matters. If week one he's questionable with a calf, then everybody was right flipping out in May. But I'll gladly come on here and say I'm wrong. But until then, I'm not gonna spend.
What are your thoughts? Do you think he'll be available week one?
Yes, absolutely. I don't think he's going to play a lot. Here's the thing is I think he's going to play like 30% of the snaps until December. Like I don't think this is a guy they care to have in a big role. I would rather ramp him up. Honestly, this is complete speculation, Mike, but part of this is that they kind of put him on a different time frame than everybody else, where they're like, we don't even want you ramping up. If you're feeling sore of any sort, we don't even want you ramping up yet. We'll start your ramp up at camp. And then maybe week one, he is like only playing, not even really playing, or not even like whatever. Like, it's not a guy I care if he plays in September at all. So I think he will play week one, but if this is just them being as prudent as possible, then I think it's smart. And that's what it really comes down to.
Yeah, I think he'll be available for the start of the regular season. And if he is questionable due to this injury, not something else, then I'll be a little bit more concerned about that lingering and being an issue. But like, this is what I think, just how I differ my thinking from an average fan. And I'm not saying either way is better or not. Fans are thinking with their emotions and their passion, and they're going to typically, when you do that, you're going to overreact to stuff. I'm more of a wait and see until I have more information. If I find out a month from now, there's a report that says Joey Bosa is not doing as well recovering from his calf strain, and that the Bills now think it's going to be pushed into the middle of the preseason, I'm going to be a little bit more concerned. But that's going to be because I have more information to go on. Some people will just throw out all of their opinions out there with little information to go on. Now, I'm not saying that Joey Bosa's injury past is little information, But as far as this specific injury, all we know right now, calf strain, and the Bills think he'll be back in training camp. The fact that they even have a timetable for training camp leads me to think they're pretty confident in their breakdown of what this is. Now, if the Bills said undetermined time frame, or we don't know exactly when he's going to be back, then it would be a little bit more concerning because they would be more vague, and the vagueness comes a little bit more questions of the Bills don't even know the time frame, the story, what's going on. The fact that they came out and said training camp, they're essentially telling you this is not a major injury. And that's the reading the tea leaves thing. A lot of people aren't reading the tea leaves. They're just reacting to Joey Bosa, who's always injured, getting hurt again. And that's leading to this online narrative because you know what? You're going to get a lot of clicks. You're going to get a lot of likes. And it's easy to fit your preconceived notions if you thought it was a bad move to begin with, rather than have a discussion of, okay, this is a setback. Let's see how he recovers. And you know what? The Bills had Von Miller, and nobody in Bills Mafia seemed to give a crap that he had an ACL injury in the past. All they could think about was that he helped the Rams win a Super Bowl the year prior. And he got off to a great start. He was much older. He had injury concerns in his past. And you know what? No one seemed to mind. Joey Bosa, it's a completely different story. You're talking about a guy that has over 70 sacks in just over 100 games. When he's on the field, he's a dominant presence. He could play 3 regular season games for all I care. If he's out there in the AFC Championship against Pat Mahomes, getting pressured, maybe taking him down, that's all I want. I don't care if he plays 0 regular season games. Just get me out there when it matters and contribute when it matters.
Absolutely. But a guy we do want to see play some regular season games, James Cook. Not in attendance. Not a surprise. Only Bill not in attendance today. Everybody else full marks, except for James Cook, who's still obviously in his contract negotiation. Mike, you let us know that those talks are still happening from what you know.
I mean,
potentially, like maybe there's
someone tells you something
talks going on.
I don't have anything since the last time we spoke, but
I know. But I'm just saying, like that's where we're at. The last 2 weeks ago, and we knew that we knew that through the grapevine that they're still working on this thing. But he's not here now. I'm not surprised he's not here now. This isn't when I really care if he's here. Training camp is when it would be like, okay, let's see what happens here. If he misses days of camp, that's a big thing. These are stress the word voluntary, and every team. Even if they would really, 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 really love the guy to be there, they're never going to hold it against the guy who isn't there because it's a really slippery slope in the league when you put something voluntary. And the players, you know, it's a bargaining, it's a union thing, right? Like the players fought for this voluntary time. They can use it or they cannot. Now the team can also what can the team do in this situation? They can take reps away. They can make it so, okay, James, you don't want to show up? Well, then you're splitting carries with Ray Davis the whole season. Like things like that. Like those are the things that I could see happening to James Cook. But voluntary organized team activities, the team's not gonna start being worried, showing any concern about that. They would love him there. And that's, I'm sure, the words they would, I don't remember the exact quote. I'm sure that's something they would say though. But this is where we're at. This is we're in this standstill. We've seen it happen among plenty of other players across the league. Doesn't happen a lot in Buffalo. Usually they've been getting ahead of these deals and kind of figuring ways out, like we saw with a lot of guys this offseason. But we're in this thing with James Cook. So how do you see this thing? I mean, he's not going to show up to any voluntary activities. So we're about a month and a half away from camp, a little bit more over that. How are you feeling about the James Cook situation right now?
This is another similar situation as far as like, until I get more information, I'm not going to really overreact either way. I didn't expect him to be at OTAs. It's voluntary. There's nothing that he really loses. Now, if we get to the mandatory stuff and he's not there, if he's not at mandatory minicamp, if he's not at training camp, then I'm going to be a little concerned because I don't know what the Bills' plan in that scenario would be. James Cook has a couple different options in front of him. He can either be a hard bargain, hold out, and try to use that as a leverage tool to get the contract he wants. But if the Bills aren't willing to budge, that could lead to him just missing time and missing part of the season. Would he be willing to go that far? That's crazy. That's kind of risky on a contract year. If you hold out on a contract year and then the market doesn't think you're worth what you thought you're worth, you could lose out on a lot of money that way. But then you have the exact opposite scenario where if you play during a contract year and you get hurt, that could also cost you a lot of money. So James Cook has a lot of things to weigh in his head. Obviously, he believes he's worth a specific amount of money. The Bills do not think he's worth that type of contract right now. So you're kind of at a standstill between the two sides. Personally, I think the money that James Cook is asking for is beyond what he is worth as a running back, and that they could find a cheaper option that could help them out in a similar fashion in the draft next year. But then you bring up, should you use draft assets, especially early ones on a running back in the first, second, third round? Now, Brandon Beane has shown he's not afraid of using second-round pick, third-round picks on running back. So I think that could be a solution. But when they used those picks on Cook in the past to move on from Devin Singletary, it was thought of as an upgrade. Now with Cook is a much higher level player, I believe, than Devin Singletary ever was. So to lose a guy like Cook, you would be losing an element of your offense. Definitely an explosive player who has the ability to take anything to the house. Now, if he's not on the offense this year because he's holding out, or maybe he's not in perfect shape when he comes back, and maybe that impacts him slightly, that could impact the Bills' offense a little bit. Now, I don't know how much. I have a lot of faith in Ray Davis. I believe in Ty Johnson, and you can bring in other players that could fill that void. It's just kind of a tricky situation because I do think James Cook is an above-average running back, but I don't think he's a $15 million a year running back. And you have that whole question overall. Should you just give him the extra $1 million or $2 million a year that he wants, if that's the gap, just to make him happy and wrap it all up and move on? Or do you play a hardball and basically say, this isn't how we conduct business. We're not going to just give in to everybody. And you see all these other Bills players that take team-friendly deals, especially this past offseason on extensions. I don't know if this is the Bills' MO of giving in a situation like this. So I think you have two sides that are pretty all in on their stance. So will this get done? If I was a betting man, I wouldn't bet on it, but we'll see. A lot can change, and things can change by the day, the hour, the minute in the NFL. So right now, I would say I would expect James Cook probably be gone next season. But tomorrow, James Cook could have a long-term deal and be with the Bills for his entire career. So you never know how this is really going to play out.
Yeah, well said. My personal opinion, and I agree with you where the Bills are coming from here. I think that it's a slippery slope. If you are to give up the $1 or $2 million, maybe it doesn't seem like a lot, but the agents that work with these guys, they get wind of that, then they're asking for the extra $1 or $2 million for their guys, and then that starts to snowball. And then if everybody's asking for $1 or $2 million, now you're a team paying everybody instead of getting bargains that we think the Bills are getting good, and maybe not bargains, but good team friendly deals, as you said. You're not getting those team friendly deals anymore. Everybody's going to want their money. It is kind of a domino effect. So yeah, if James Cook is going to have to be the sacrificial lamb for Brandon Beane to still stand his ground and keep his boundary to these agents and the people that he's working with every day and the people that he's talking to every day, then maybe that's just what it has to be, because you have to remember with these James, it is the position of least value. Of guys that, not saying that it's not a valuable position, but of guys that you can find replaceable level, average replacement level production that can still help be on a Super Bowl winning team, right? Like you can get just solid production and be a great team, be an elite team. We know that you can do that at running back. I'm pretty high on Ray Davis. I think he's only going to get better. Maybe I'm higher on it than most, but I think he could come in and step in and do something decent this year. I don't think he could be as good as James Cook. I think James Cook's awesome. I think he's above average. I don't know if he's in the top 10, it's barely in the top 10 of running backs in the NFL though. And it's just value. It's not that he's not good, but that's why it's kind of in the same vein of the Bosa conversation that we're talking about earlier. Everybody freaking out about paying James Cook or not paying James Cook. If they lose a good player, you lose a good player. When you're a great team and you want to be a contender, sometimes you got to let go of great players. Like that is what it is. We've seen it happen time and time again, like with this team in the past couple of years. Like last year, the last offseason, the whole story was about all the great players that the Bills decided to let go. Like you guys, like we know now by not this is how the team build. This is how building a roster, championship contending roster goes. So I think it's just
tough,
par for
man.
the course.
It is tough with James Cook because, like, I do think he's a top 10 running back, and I also do believe he is a difference maker on this Bills offense. This is where I struggle, and on Twitter, people probably would yell at me and say I'm playing both sides. This is my struggle with James Cook. He adds to this Bills offense in a way that an average running back can't. And it's because of his explosiveness to take a 5-yard run and turn it into a 50-yard run. How many times last year did you see him do that? Several times against there's how many games that you saw him? He had the San Fran run in the snow, the run against Detroit where his hair is getting pulled. I think he had a couple other big runs that really changed games for the Bills. And that when you're talking about above average elite running backs, I think they have to have at least one elite skill set. The reason why I wasn't high on keeping Devin Singletary was, yes, his numbers were solid in Buffalo. He had solid above average elusiveness, but he didn't have a breakaway speed. If he could make that 2-yard run into a 5-yard run, but he wasn't turning a 5-yard run into a 20-yard run. So he was very limited. He wasn't changing games with what he was doing. He was a very average pass catcher. He didn't have great hands. Not saying James Cook has great hands either, but Singletary didn't really have that next dimension in him. It felt like, okay, no matter who you replace Singletary with, they could do similar things. Maybe they'd struggle a little bit more with elusiveness, but they would be able to put up similar production. I don't think just another second-round pick running back is a guarantee to come in and average 5+ yards per carry and rush for over 1,000 yards and break all these things. So, like, I do think they would have to have an investment in somebody solid to actually replace Cook's production. But at the same point, I don't think that the upgrade from Singletary to Cook is something worth paying $15 million for. Like if Singletary, if you have a running back, it's a $5 million value running back or even a $6 million running back, and you get average production, and then you say a good running back is 9 to 10 million and a great running back is 15 million plus. I don't think Cook is at that 15 million level. I think he's closer to that $10+ million level. And that's where I struggle with this, is because I have no issue with going a little bit higher than what I normally would on a running back to retain a guy like James Cook. I'm just not okay with getting Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey money. Like, I need to stay out of that ballpark. Top 10 money, okay. Elite money, no. Like, I think he's like that running back 7, running back 8, like 6 to 8 range. Like, he's a Pro Bowl caliber running back. If everything goes right for him, he can have a season like last year where he gets double-digit touchdowns, 1,000 yards, 5 yards a carry. But he's never going to be the guy that's carrying the ball 280 to 300 times a season. He's a 200-carry running back in this NFL now. That's getting the ball 12 times a game on the ground. That 12 to 13 times. That's not. You shouldn't be getting more than $1 million per carry you get a game. Meaning, if you get that 13, 14 carries, he shouldn't be getting 14, 15 million for that.
No, it's everyone on it to pay him that kind of money. He'll be just. What's going on?
I'm back. I don't know if you lost me or I lost you, but we're still.
I have no idea either. I was wondering the same thing. No idea who lost who, but we are, I think, back here. I was gonna say, when it comes to James Cook, I agree with the here's the thing. Here's the grouping I have here, because I'm with you where we can debate the range, but I think we're in the same ballpark of running back he is, but the money I feel like is different when it ranges here. Barkley, Henry, Jake John, Kyron Williams. Those are the top 6 running backs I have. I think that's who I wouldn't put him ahead of any of those. Would you put him ahead of any of those guys in this moment?
No.
And so then now I think this is where I think that we're all these next 5 you could put any which way, and I would agree with you. Gibbs, Mixon, Jones, Kamara, Cook, and where those guys kind of fall.
Yeah, I mean, Gibbs is probably a higher impact than a Cook, but yeah, like that's the type of group that I would put Cook among, and that's the tough part, because if you ask the Bills, if you lost James Cook, how difficult would it be to replace his production? I don't think they would say that it is the most difficult thing in the world, but it's a tough one, man, because I do think that Cook has a value. I think he's just overplaying his value right now. And when you have these conversations, it's like you either think people believe that you're either saying he's good or he's not. I think he's good. I do think he has value. He's just overstating it a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case here. And it's a lot of the thing. One of the biggest things we have to consider here too with the James Cook thing is the brother, is Dalvin, who has clearly been influencing him, been talking about that specific $15 million mark that we know Cook was, at least at the beginning, initially looking for.
And how did that work out for Dalvin? How did that work out for him? Like Dalvin did the same thing, and it basically ended his career as a good running back in the league. He went from being a 1,000-yard rusher to a nobody. So I don't know.
That's why I don't know. Like, is this good advice? Like, that's the thing I wonder. If you're James Cook, are you taking good advice from your brother? Like, isn't this just kind of? Doesn't it just kind of seem like it's Dalvin in that case, like trying to get what he thought he deserved for his brother, which is admirable. I understand that for sure. But maybe this is just a good deal for James. And here's the other thing about James Cook. Go get paid. Go get paid somewhere else where it's not a great team. And what is it going to look like for you in an offense that's not perfectly set up? Like, the thing is, we've seen James Cook in like the best possible situation, or at least a close to best possible situation. And for Dalvin, it was a much different scenario. Dalvin was the workhorse of that team. Like, when you thought of those teams, you're thinking Dalvin Cook is the star of those teams. We don't think that about James Cook. We know who the engine of this team is. It revolves around one guy. And so I feel like it's a whole completely different scenario with that too. And that's the thing with James Cook. He's never going to be that guy.
I think it's a respect thing too, because Dalvin Cook, for what he produced, he really didn't get paid much for it during his career. Yeah. And he probably has running backs have this belief, and some of it is fair and logical, that they don't get paid for their production, because once they're done with their rookie contract, teams kind of just move on and go to the next running back. So you have all this production, you play at a high level, and only a select few get that next big contract now. And Dalvin Cook never really got that long-term big money contract. He got a little bit of money from the Jets, but that was 1 year, and that turned out to not work. And teams don't put the money on these running backs because it rarely pays off for them. So I think Dalvin Cook is basically telling his brother, hey, man, you're young. You're still in the prime of your career. Get your money when you can, and don't worry about the rest. And I think that's the tough thing for the Bills right now is, what does Cook care more about? Does he care about playing on a winner and contributing to that, or does he care more about cashing out? And at this point, none of us know Cook personally, so we don't really know, but it gives the appearance that he cares more about cashing out than he really does winning, which goes counter to the way the Bills are run. And it's one of those where I struggle to really complain about Cook, because his brother didn't benefit. His brother is a living example of not getting paid his value throughout his career. Granted, like it's hard to see from a fan when you see somebody make over $20 million to be sympathetic to it. But Dalvin Cook was one of the best running backs in the league for a 4-year period. And you would think, like, if you really got your value, Dalvin Cook probably should have made $5, $6, $7 million a year during that time. And he probably should have been a running back that made $35, $40 million in his career. So he's probably like, I got ripped off. Then you see Barkley get his money. You see Derrick Henry get $15 million. And he's probably like, Cook, like, James, you're a star right now. You just had set the Bills single season touchdown record for rushing, and you should get $15 million. And you think about it, with Cook's age, if he got a 4-year, $15 million a year deal, that's talking $60 million. That's more than double Dalvin Cook for his career. Now, ultimately, they got to be a little realistic, though. They have to understand, like, the Bills aren't just going to hand them that money. But this is where, like, if Cook is realistic and then he's okay with, like, agreeing to, like, a 4-year, $44 million deal, it meant, like, you both kind of won. You got your long-term deal. You got good money. And the Bills get your production for 4 years. You both kind of gave in a little bit. You both make some money. Now, the risk comes if he doesn't sign an extension with the Bills, if the Bills don't give him that 4-year, whatever type of money contract, who has more to lose? James Cook does. Because if he goes to the market next year after holding out this year, if he goes to the market next year after getting hurt this year, what's he going to get then? Who knows? Like, or if he has an average season and doesn't put up big numbers, does Cook suddenly get $7 million, $8 million? Does somebody give him $9, $10 million? So I think he's playing a hard ball. But if the Bills are willing to, like, nudge a little bit more, I think it would be smart for Cook to take it. Because if Cook was the starting running back at Tennessee, or if he was the starting running back on Arizona or some other random no-name team in the NFL right now that just wanted a name guy with some ability, is he even a guy that people care about in the league right now? Probably not. So, and I think sometimes when you're on a winning team, you tend to give yourself a little bit more of that credit than what you truly deserve.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. We'll see how it plays out over the rest of the summer and heading into minicamp and training camp. But let's wrap up here, Mike, with the big news that we missed last week. Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks will be in Rochester at St. John Fisher this summer, covering all things Buffalo Bills. I assume they'll be at the joint practices here in Chicago as well before the preseason game there. So Hard Knocks, HBO, if you're not familiar, reality show about training camp. It lasts through. This is really an interesting. I don't know how deep of a Hard Knocks fan you are. I'm usually bought in every year, and even if I'm not paying deep attention, I just love the I just eat up as much NFL Films content as I can during the season. So, like, I'll just have it on just to hear the music and see the ambiance and everything. But now, obviously, investment will be at an all-time high. But this is really interesting for the show in general. So they've had a lot of trouble getting teams to agree to this show the last 5-6 years. Hence why they've been doing the different tests of the in-season, the off-season. But if you look at the run of teams who have done the traditional Hard Knocks, hasn't been great the last 5, 6, 7 years of this show. Now they walk into this season with the Buffalo Bills. They've never really done that. I looked back. I can't really place a time where they did a team. And I'd have to look through again. I don't have it off the top of my head, but very rarely do they do a team that's like Super Bowl contender team that lost in the championship game last year trying to get back. And the tenor, like, of training, like, you're watching the Bears one last year, the tenor of that training camp is like, let's see what we got, right? Let's just throw it all out there. We're a blank canvas, whatever. And that brings that's entertaining in its own right and everything. You get to learn the characters and everything else. But this, Mike, a team that's contending with 3 position groups that are going to be an intense battle, and just to see, like, the behind the scenes of a preparation for an elite team like this is really unique. I think not even just for Bills fans, but the NFL fans at large. Depending on what the Bills are letting them, show and what the footage will actually be, this could be a really exciting season of Hard Knocks, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Any access we get inside the team as a fan, I think is a plus for all of us. I trust they're not going to show things that are going to give away inside secrets or anything that will hurt the Bills in terms of on the field. It's funny because when like news like this comes out, you have two sides of thinking. As with everything, you have the people that are excited because their favorite team is going to be featured, and they'll get access that they've never seen, and a different way of storytelling outside of the Bills framing of things. So we're obviously used to how the Bills frame things on Embedded in a pro Bills manner, and we're obviously used to how WGR and the local media frame things on their airwaves or newspapers or websites, stuff like that. This is going to be a totally different presentation. We're going to get to see inside things that we never have seen before with this organization. So I think that's intriguing. How will they handle it? Well, coming off an AFC championship, like you said, there's probably going to be a lot of focus on Josh Allen. Obviously, who knows if Haley Seinfeld will be there or not. They're probably hoping that she might be there to do a little bit on her. Josh might be a little bit more private and not want that to happen. So I wouldn't predict that to happen, but it's obviously going to be a heavy focus on Josh Allen. It's going to be a heavy focus on the D-line additions that are going on. And then your typical training camp battles and young players trying to make an impression. Keon Coleman is probably going to be a focus in camp. Maybe Dalton Kincaid, him needing to step up. Trey White returning, maybe being a mentor to Maxwell Hairston and how that is working out on the field. So there's a lot of intriguing storylines. And like you said, a lot of times this is bad teams with a young quarterback or trying to take that next step. And it's kind of gotten dull over the years because it's the same thing over and over and over again. I like that they're changing this up. And for the fans that are like, oh my God, there's a Hard Knocks curse, like that's a bunch of crap. Like they play football. That's not a real thing. The reason why the teams in the past have been bad is because they picked bad teams
because they stayed
on the show. It's not that they suddenly were cursed by Hard Knocks. No, it was just they were bad teams. Josh Allen was on the cover of Madden. The Bills still won the division. They still made the playoffs, and they won a playoff game. So I'm not too worried about that. And then the other thing too, like I saw some people saying, "Oh, what like this is gonna mess up their routine." If the Bills brass can't handle a few cameras during camp, well, then I'm more concerned about how the team is run because this shouldn't be a distraction to them. This really shouldn't impact them. They should just continue to do their way. Now, I understand why the coaching staff, maybe management and ownership don't like it. But to me, that's just because a lot of these coaches tend to be private individuals who don't want their behind-the-scenes life on display. They don't want what they're doing on display for thousands and hundreds of thousands of people, in this case, maybe even millions, of people to see what they're doing. If something happens that goes viral, it could be a bad look for them. It puts them at a chance of embarrassment or risk and stuff like that. And a lot of these coaches typically are conservative individuals that don't want everything on display. So like I totally get Sean McDermott probably not loving this. But you know what? This is the NFL. NFL is an entertainment industry. And sometimes that requires doing some things you don't want to do in order to comply with the league. And the Bills are the last team that really has any right to complain about this when they have literally participated in so few things throughout the years compared to the rest of the league. So I don't think the Bills have any basis to actually be upset. It is what it is. This was bound to happen. They weren't going to stick with this playoff teams are exempt forever, because that just means that half the league was going to be exempt for the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's part of the thing too. And you know, it's nice to have some Bills NFL media content coming out when we have to sit. Well, I'm not going to sit through it, but they're putting out this Chiefs propaganda before the thing's even over from them. So this year,
like the Chiefs have been on stuff like this. Like,
yeah,
I don't know specifically Hard Knocks or not.
Well,
but
I mean, and Mahomes was on quarterback for the whole season.
I just get tired of this. Like, oh, what is this going to do to the Bills? Absolutely nothing.
You know what? You know what happened when Patrick Mahomes was on the show quarterback? They won the fucking Super Bowl. So I think it's okay.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like, and this is, I don't want to be like I'm that guy, and I hate sometimes being that guy. I'm the person that I see how fans react to a lot of things. I see narratives that develop, and I'm just like, guys, that's all crap. Like 90. 90% of what we're talking about in May, in June in the NFL does not matter. Like, it really does not matter. Talk to me when training camp starts and there's actual position battles, legitimate, like on the field injuries, and things that are going to impact the regular season. That's when I'm going to start being concerned. Unless I find out somebody tore their ACL tomorrow at OTAs, I am not going to be overly concerned about things going on. But I think that's what's happened with social media, man. Like, when I'm not old, you're not old, but I think both of us are old enough to remember a little bit of the world before social media existed, before having a Facebook account or a Twitter page. And back when I was a teenager, I got my Bills updates from reading the Buffalo News at 3:00 in the afternoon when it got delivered to the house, or I listened to WGR. I didn't turn on ESPN for Bills updates because they didn't talk about the Buffalo Bills at all. I had to go on a ticker on ESPN just to see anything. They rarely had articles on ESPN.com. We didn't even have ESPN Bills reporters until Tim Graham became the AFC East reporter, and then we got Mike Rodak after that. And any Bills info that you really wanted was going to be on the Bills message board, or it was going to be on the 11 o'clock news or the 6 o'clock news. So now that we have social media and that we get all this stuff constantly, now we're bombarded with information. We're just constantly we're constantly reacting to it. If this was 20 years ago, during the time that things used to happen, most people wouldn't even be finding out about this Joey Bosa news until late this afternoon or tomorrow. And by that point, they're like, okay, like, that sucks, but he's going to be back for training camp. Like, okay, good. Instead, everybody wants to have that first opinion on everything. They want to get their word out. And I don't want to, I always want to be careful of this, but like, I think that is what separates media from fan. Media has to absorb it and then formulate a thought based on all the information present to them, and they have to contextualize it and have a nuanced thought and opinion. Not saying everybody in the media is good. A fan, you don't have that pause of thinking about what I'm saying before I'm tweeting. You're just boom, like, you put it there, and then the world sees it. It's two different ways of operating, and obviously I've been on both sides of it, and it's why I get frustrated sometimes. Like, if it's September 7th and Joey Bosa is starting against the Ravens and he has 2 sacks on Lamar Jackson, we're going to be looking back on this show on May 27th and being like, damn, that was an interesting day that meant absolutely nothing. But if he's out September 7th, we'll look back on this and say, well, maybe we should have been a little bit more concerned. We won't know. Way too early to tell. We'll see where things go the next couple months.
Very safe to say, though, that will be a big theme heading into the Hard Knocks episode. As you said, with the D-line, Joey Bosa, I'm sure, will be a big star on there. James Cook, whether we like it or not, going to get talked about on Hard Knocks, whether they're showing him or not there. He's going to be a topic of conversation. I'm honestly, Mike, I'm really excited. I'm well, like you said, we never got this media attention. Welcome. Maybe it'll be 1% of a distraction. Who knows? Maybe it'll be some clips that annoy you and some discourse that annoy you out of Hard Knocks. But it's way more fun being the team that everybody's talking about, and especially the team that everybody's talking about when you're not a laughing stock. It's not like we're going to be made fun of here. People are going to be hyped to see the Bills and see Josh Allen and things like that. This is going to be a love fest for Buffalo, and not only Buffalo, but the fans. What's the best thing about St. John Fisher? It's that this damn place is sold out everything by Bills fans, by all you guys out there in Western New York that are dedicating the middle of your summer to go out and be in Rochester. So I'm sure that's a big reason they're doing this too, is because they know the atmosphere is going to be fucking awesome, and they're going to be able to talk to some diehard fans and get some, a read on why the heck are you out here following this team in training camp doing this every year, because it's special. So embrace it, enjoy it, because it's a privilege to be this team in the NFL. It always will be, always has been. I'm going to have fun with it. I hope you all will too. So, Mike, I think we paid the bills here. Anything else you got before we go?
Not really. All I would say is just embrace it. I think what's happening a lot with our fan base right now is that the season after season after season of falling short and not winning a Super Bowl, it's starting to weigh on a lot of people. And we're really starting to get very we're all feeling it as a fan base right now, and the pressure is mounting, and it's leading to a lot of toxic behavior on social media. Not that Twitter and Facebook weren't toxic enough to begin with, but we have to remember this is the fun times. The Bills are winning 11 to 13 games every year. They have an MVP quarterback. They've won games in the playoffs 5 straight years, 5 straight division titles. There's no sign of that ending anytime soon. So I just hope that the fan base appreciates and enjoys these moments. Being featured on Hard Knocks this year is something to look forward to. While the Bills are getting all this attention, it's a good thing for the organization. I would take this over the bad years of 17-year playoff droughts and no attention and being an afterthought, and where half the league doesn't even know you exist. So the Bills aren't always going to be like this. There's going to be a day in the future where Josh Allen is no longer the Bills quarterback, and they're going to go back to struggling to make the playoffs, and things are going to be difficult for them. So I just hope fans don't fail to appreciate these moments. And because I've heard a lot of people from the Super Bowl years where they did take it for granted, and then they regretted that they were so hard on the team and they didn't enjoy it more. So these are the good days. I just hope fans can enjoy it, because there's definitely the older fans know what it's like to go through the rough times and how to get back on track. You and I, we know that, but a lot of the young fans, they haven't had anything but success, and they don't realize that this is not the norm. This is the exception, and never take it for granted.
I'm gonna turn into Bane in The Dark Knight Rises in like 10 years when the Bills are eventually on a downturn and in a rebuilding year, and be like, listen, you thought you thought you knew the darkness, and I was born in it, born into the drought. So that's what this is. That is a different perspective. I understand. I grew up just wondering what a playoff game could even look like.
I had a
So
post
I'm
in
here
2016 asking if I was ever going to see the Bills in the playoffs in my lifetime. And I got one other crazy take. I'd love to have this talk on a different day, on a different show during the summer when we have nothing to talk about. I have a view that Sean McDermott might not be the right coach to win a championship. Meaning he might not be that high-end coach that the Bills need to get all the way. But if the Bills were bad, he would be the right coach to make sure a bad team would still be good. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yep.
Would love to talk about that one day in the future, because
so he's Mike Tomlin.
I think Sean McDermott could definitely be like a Mike Tomlin, where I have this belief, even if Josh Allen wasn't the Bills quarterback, he would find a way to go 9-8 with Mitch Trubisky or something like that. And we'd be like, wow, how did we go from 11-6 with Josh Allen to 9-8 with Mitch Trubisky? And you're just like, I mean, the guy can coach. He just can't coach that big one. The only difference is Mike Tomlin did win one, but we still got time.
Yeah, he did. He got an early one. He had a nice setup though. He had a nice setup. So we'll get there. We'll get there. I have faith. Shout out to our sponsor, Picasso's Pizza. We paid the bills. Thank you everybody for joining along. We'll be back next week to talk more OTAs. Let's see what breaks down over the next week of practice and what else goes on and what other big news drops in the world of the Buffalo Bills. But for tonight, thank you all. Have a great rest of your night. Sleep well. Very late here, and go Bills.